I'm here because despite all the years of consultation we've had about this legislation, it's still very contentious. It has divided parties, including my own party, the SNP. I'm not the only person who's concerned about this legislation. There's a significant SNP rebellion going on in the building behind me. Other political parties, including the Labour Party, are divided by this legislation, and we've seen recently opinion polls showing that the majority of the Scottish public are against the legislation. Now, I'm not against trans rights. I'm a lesbian and a feminist. Of course, I believe in equal rights and human rights for all. But the difficulty with this legislation is, as the First Minister says, it doesn't give any new rights to trans people, but what it does do is give the right to any man to self-identify as a woman after 3 months of living as a woman, which phrase is undefined, and thereafter with minimal safeguards. And I think that is a threat to the safety, dignity and privacy of women. And I don't think there's sufficient safeguards in the bill. Last night, members of Parliament voted down by a very small majority, by one vote, amendments to prevent rapists and serious sexual offenders from taking advantage of this system of self-ID. And I can't understand why they would do that. In my view, it would have been perfectly simple to have had stronger safeguards on this bill without causing any detriment to genuine trans people who wanted to get a gender recognition certificate. And in holding this view, I'm not going against my party policy. The Scottish National Party has never voted for self-ID as a policy at a conference, and it wasn't in our manifesto. What we did promise to do was to make the process of gender recognition easier for trans people, which I support. What I don't support is opening up to just anyone with minimal safeguards. I know for a fact that there are people in both the Westminster group and the Holyrood group who have serious reservations about this legislation, but who haven't felt able to speak out. And I think some people are scared to speak out in this debate, because when you do speak out, you're often wrongly branded a transphobe or a bigot. In my case, I was kicked off the SNP front bench for speaking up for women's rights and for lesbian rights, and I've also received rape and death threats, and as is a matter of public record, I've had no public support from my political party despite those rape and death threats. So I think many parliamentarians are just trying to keep out of this debate because they're afraid to speak up. But what I can tell you is, in my home city of Edinburgh, not just in my constituency but across the city, and indeed when I'm in London, I literally cannot walk up a street without a member of the public stopping me and thanking me for the stance I've taken on this issue. And I think the view that reality is reflected by the opinion polls that we saw in the Times last weekend. Well, what I would like MSPs to do is to press pause on this bill, to do three things. Firstly, to look seriously at the evidence of the United Nations Special Rapporteur on violence against women and girls, who spoke to the committee for the first time on Monday evening and told them that this bill needs more safeguards. I'd like them also to look at the implications of a decision in the Court of Session last week by Lady Haldane on the interaction between this bill and the Equality Act. And I would also like the committee who looked at this bill to hear evidence from the female survivors of sexual abuse who wanted to speak to them but were refused an audience. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have reform, I'm just saying the bill needs better safeguards in it, and I'd like MSPs to press pause and look at those safeguards more carefully. Well, I mean, this is a matter for the Scottish Parliament. You know, I'm from the Scottish National Party MP. I'd like to see an independent Scotland. What I've tried to do is influence the debate here, because the debate has not been satisfactory. This is not the way we should be making policy or law in Scotland. Many women, such as myself, who've tried to contribute to this debate have been shouted down, we've been abused, we've faced bullying in our workplace, and I know personally I've faced bullying in my workplace as a result of my views on this, and some women have even lost their jobs. Last week at Edinburgh University, which is my alma mater, we saw a noisy mob prevent a feminist film from being shown, and even last night in this building, women in the public gallery were threatened with arrest. That's not the Scotland I want to see. It's not why I came into politics. I want to see a better Scotland where all voices are heard and where debates are not shut down by abuse or bullying.